Many families are very much scared to go for another child once they have one, which is on the autism spectrum. The life of a mother who raised a child by sacrificing herself, and then when the child is older, she will be beaten up on a daily basis. But her own child, this is not a life to live, honestly.
There is a high incidence of having a second child on the autism spectrum. Also seen that if the sibling is a boy, then the chances unfortunately are higher than if the sibling is a girl.
Welcome to the BioNexus Health podcast with Dr. Jodie Dashore, who holds a PhD in integrative medicine, is board certified in integrative pediatrics, an internationally recognized pioneering clinician, and author. And now here's your host of BioNexus Health podcast, Dr. Jodie Dashore.
We have been taking a deep dive into so many questions, and those watching, this is part 3 now, right? So keep in mind that these are questions coming from parents of children newly diagnosed with autism, and I'm really impressed that such scientific and correctly formulated questions are coming from parents, which is just hats off for trying to do your research and gather information.
My next question was actually related to is autism genetic? Because it's a theory we hear sometimes, and actually you just brought this up in the comment you made on my last question. Many families are very much scared to go for another child once they have one, which is on the autism spectrum, and I just wanted you to share your views on that.
There is a high incidence of having a second child on the autism spectrum, not necessarily at the same level of autism. Like, if your first child is level 3, doesn't mean that your second child will be the same. Right? It could be level 1. Now, autism spectrum, it's a spectrum. So you could have a child, the first child, for example, or even the second child, it could be any different variations, that if your child is nonverbal, for example, if one of your children is nonverbal, doesn't mean that the second child will also be. Another child may just have ADHD, may just end up with, sensory problems, may just have combination, like oppositional defiant or sensory problems, or ADD, ADHD, hyperlexia. So these are different issues that are seen on the spectrum. And yes, it can occur in families, which is where, for those of you who want to understand what Andrea said in her question about our prior discussion, remember to visit part 1 and part 2 of this discussion series that we are having with Andrea. It's also seen that if the sibling is a boy, then the chances unfortunately are higher than if the sibling is a girl. There are various factors. If your living arrangements are environmental compromise, and then you move for the next pregnancy, you're in a much better environmental situation. If the mother's health, for whatever reason, is much better, then of course, that impacts the results on the pregnancy. Like, if you have a mom, say you moved from a moldy place into a well-constructed new house unknowingly, you didn't know
Yes.
that caused the autism in your first child. You moved into a nice clean space. There is, you're out in the country, there's fresh air, etc. And then mom, for whatever reason, something happened. She got like big infection, so she had to go in, be on antibiotics for a long time until the bronchitis got better or whatever, right? And then coincidentally, she got pregnant soon after. So these are a lot of coincidences that can happen where a child can not have something, as being fully on the spectrum, as being nonverbal, but may just have other issues. So there are various factors involved, but yes, there are research studies that show that autism can be in multiple siblings in the same family.
Life of a mother who raised a child by sacrificing herself, and then when the child is older, she will be beaten up on a daily basis. But her own child, that this is not a life to live, honestly.
Mothers, especially, honestly, as mothers get older, and we go through perimenopause, which can be up to 10 years before menopause.
Yes.
When we go through menopause, nobody understands what women go through.
Yeah.
It is very difficult that, there are hormonal disruptions, yes. Andrea, there are estrogen receptors in almost every cell in the human body for females. And when I say females, let me just be politically correct, those born with the XX chromosome. Okay. So those born with an XX chromosome, when you go through perimenopause and menopause, it is a lot of silent suffering, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of psychological ups and downs because of hormonal dysregulation. Estrogen is on the decline. Your organs are drying up. That there's so many things going on, like things like frozen shoulders, things like hemorrhoids, things like your interest is gone, your libido is gone, your joy for life is gone, and you're trying to keep the marriage together, you're trying to keep your
a job, trying to keep your job, and then also you need to, on top of everything, to
look after your child.
Yes.
Right. So it is important for mothers to be kind to yourselves.
I would like to move on to a more sensitive question this time. Let's discuss a bit the GB jabbers. On many forums in the social media, parents are wondering whether this have an influence or not in the future of their children.
Yes.
Does a weak immune system contribute to a stronger reaction? Why do two brothers react differently to the same GB jabber?
Right. Since we are jibber jabbering, let's jibber jabber on a little bit more. So yes, I have twins and triplets in my practice, and everyone's lab results are different. And each of them responds differently to their treatment. They all have their customized dosage based on what we find in the labs. So the response is different. The die-off reactions, the detox reactions are different. The recovery and repair is different. The progress is different. We've seen one example I remember, beautiful triplets from amazing family in Chicago. And one is completely mainstreamed. Next one is almost mainstreamed. And the last one of them is, pretty much lagging behind, moderately so. They're triplets. Right?
Yeah.
Same environment, same. So that is, again, spiritually thinking, I've always thought about this as well. Spiritually, it's a different soul.
Yes, indeed.
So it's anyways, the body is different. The physiology the biochemistry, the organs that are affected, the development of the immune system, what kind of an impact the autism has had on the development of various systems. Even neurotypical children develop at varying paces, right? You have some children whose motor skills develop before their neurological, they are like walking, right? Before the fine motor develops. And some of them are actually babbling before they can ever walk. So these are normal in nature to have these developmental predominances, differences in children. Various, jibber jabbers and treatments are required for school.
Yes.
Right.
Kindergarten. Yes.
Correct. Yes. Kindergarten, etc. And sometimes there is no choice. So, if you have like 5 sessions of treatments scheduled in the same day, some of the things you can do, there is the BioNexus immune support and treatment detoxification program that can be used right after to support your immune system, if you know what I mean, and to detoxify right after any of the strong treatments that pediatricians will tell you it's important, but sometimes you have to go in with some immune support after that. So we do have that. Additionally, waiting as long as possible. If your child has any kind of special needs, or if your child has a weak immune system, then waiting as long as possible for any mandatory treatments to be done. And instead of doing 4 or 5 sessions in a day, just do 1 session, wait 4 months, do another session, wait another 4 months, and then do another jibber jabber session. Some treatments, most of these type of jibby jabby treatments can be very toxic, and we have seen major immune reactions in children, especially autistic children or anywhere on the spectrum children, that research shows have mitochondrial problems, have immune dysregulation, gut dysregulation. So, treatments can have an adverse effect, sometimes even overnight. Like, I've seen video recordings of children that were, singing the happy birthday song or trying to babble along, and 2 days later, selective mutism. And selective mutism is a diagnosis. It's a DSM diagnosis where it is selective, that, the anxiety is extremely high, the social anxiety, that they can speak only in front of either mom or dad, or so that's underlying what shall I say, treatment toxicity, or extreme reaction to the treatments they've received, and then complicated with mold, biotoxins, PANS. Yeah, so this happens to even neurotypical children, and I've seen so many of them recover from the selective mutism.
I would like to now ask you a few questions about the struggles that our autistic children are confronted with. Sensory issues, poor communication skills. Over 30% of them are nonverbal. Some of them are physically affected, like Brian and Arthur, on top of everything else. I was wondering, like, where are these coming from? What is the underlying cause of this? And most important, when we manage to treat the condition, will they actually manage to recover and, let's say, become verbal? What is on your experience in your clinic that happened to children like that?
Children that are having physical problems, right? Is that the focus of this question? Children who have
Well, if you want, maybe we can make it like differently, because indeed I kind of mixed things. And I know that it's completely different. So on one hand, we have the children who are experiencing also physical problems. On the other hand, we have the one who are experiencing lots of sensory issues or communication skills, some of them remaining nonverbal. So yeah, maybe you can differentiate.
Yes. Honestly, no, I don't think we need to differentiate, because the underlying logic when it comes to investigating what medical conditions could be underlying our children, that remains the same. It is very important to investigate when there's any kind of disruption in the typical neurological, psychological, emotional, social, physical development of a child. Unless there is any obvious conditions like, rickets or fracture or, Paget's disease or something that obviously impacts the joints, the bones, that can be treated. But if there is no reason or, no known reason that you're being given for physical problems, let's go with physical first. Physical problems with your child, like why is Brian's leg paralyzed? What the heck? I mean, it's not associated with autism. Why is he getting vocal tics? Why is he getting motor tics? Why are the eyes blinking? The head is shaking. Anytime he comes near any kind of electrical appliance, the eyes start blinking. This is not autism. I mean, what is going on? That's when we ran the basic labs, complete nonsense. We had 10 false negatives. Why does he have excruciating pain? Then we heard about specialized labs that I run now. And then we got this underlying diagnosis. So bottom line, if there is a physical issue, right? If there is a musculoskeletal issue, if there is a gross motor, a neurodevelopmental problem, 1000% investigate infections. Not toxins, infections. If there is sensory issues, if there is language delays, right? Especially if these symptoms are coming together. You have a child that is aggressive, explosive, self-harm, harming others, is nonverbal, right? Always seems to be frustrated, has difficulty with transitioning, is hyperactive. He's trying to tell you something, for crying out loud. He's nonverbal. I don't know. I always end up getting emotional, but don't listen to the typical picture that people paint about autistic children, right? Oh, they are hyperactive. They are going to be. There are some that are going to be aggressive. There are some. Do you understand the high level of anxiety that comes when the brain is on fire? Your own immune system is sending antibodies to attack the brain. And there is, the human body has no automatic defense against that. If there is an infection, of course the body has a defense. What is it? Your immune system. If there is a toxin, again, defense system is your immune system. But if the army is attacking the same country, if the army is attacking the citizens of their own country, what does one do? So that is where it is important to investigate and look if there are any of the other conditions that I spoke in part 1 and part 2 that are mimicking the symptoms of autism. That is the least you can do. You know, in the, I think it was 1960s or early 70s, there was the early investigators, scientists that went into mental institutions, and they did a simple nutritional analysis of the schizophrenic patients. And the ones that had major nutritional deficiencies with B vitamins and any other vitamins, they were given high doses and they got better. Obviously, if the growing body has depleted nutritionally, mitochondria is not generating proper energy, how are you supposed to heal? You have infections that are attacking the cranial nerves in the brain. How is the child supposed to chew? How is the child supposed to have strong muscles to be able to speak? I mean, the child can't even chew properly. How do you expect this child to speak? You know, and honestly, when you look at the labs and all the pain and suffering this child is going through, you will realize that take your goals for speech, put it on the back burner. Take the goals for health, bring it to the front. Let the health get better, and then you will see that the language comes along. 100% of children speak? No. Nobody gets better 100%. Some it could be speech could be limited. Some it could be that, you know, social interaction is limited. Whatever, nobody recovers 100% or whatever the deficit might be. Some, like, you know, my son might have musculoskeletal, like arthritis, permanent issues. But isn't that better than lifetime of autism? Yes. You can become a productive member of society, get educated, you know, have a job, have your family, and we can leave this world, you know, feeling
In peace. Exactly.
In peace for our children. Yes, yes. You know, we're not going to haunt our children, you know, after we are gone, like, you know, really worrying about their health. And we can go in peace. Exactly. We can move on to the next level. 100% of children that I have treated, the nonverbal communication has multiplied amazingly, right? In multiple languages sometimes, right? You have a child that will understand 3, 4, 5-step commands. You go here, do this. After that is done, come on over here, bring it. This is a huge improvement from someone with autism, like, you know, in their own world. So the nonverbal communication, 100% of children has been phenomenal, right, on the herbal protocol. The verbal communication is you know, understand that all motor skills are connected to the thalamus, hypothalamus, and basal ganglia in the brain. Understand the science, moms and dads. There is no miracles because there are so many connections that go from the basal ganglia. Now, mold will affect your hypothalamus. That is how it affects your pituitary, and the hormonal disruption happens. So hypothalamus is affected. The mold, as well as pandas, they cause inflammation and damage. The nuclei become small. In the basal ganglia, that is your motor center in the brain, and the amygdala, that is your social cognition communication center. So, you know, if you're saying that your child, some children, you know, they develop verbal skills for at home, but when they are socially, they are still inappropriate, give them time. The BioNexus speech protocol, the speech blend, the neuro essential oil blend, the calm and focus support. These are the three pillars of the BioNexus speech protocol, these three blends. Again, 100% of children, people, I should say, with autism that have been put on the speech protocol at the right time, we've seen actual words, even in a 27-year-old. The thalamus has close connections with the hypothalamus. Now, the thalamus is known as the sensory relay station in the brain. And when those connections are affected, of course, your child will have sensory issues. One of my goals is to create a custom, a different sensory approach that is applicable, because I've been sensory integration certified, board certified for so many years now. And it's a beautiful program that Dr. Jane back in the day came up with, right brain, left brain integration, and so many beautiful skills that are required. Now, the basis of speech and language can be found in higher level sensory integration, body awareness, environmental awareness, position in space, right? All of these connections, the speed of response. So specific sensory treatment modalities are required for specific stage of recovery of a child on the spectrum and any other child with sensory integration issues. And it can all be coordinated back with his status with his labs. If a child has, say for example, in the early stages of PANS and mold, if you try to go ahead and try to give them the higher level of sensory integration, just because you have a child in your clinic and you're trying to, demonstrate to the parents how hard you're working with the child, it is false hope. It'll be frustrating for you as a therapist, because you will see that, children diagnosed with autism that have PANS, PANDAS are very bright, very smart kids. However, they will learn what you're teaching them pretty quickly, but they will not be able to retain or reproduce the next time because you are a bit too advanced for them. It is enormous amount of pitfalls to overcome, to be aware when you are in a very stressful situation, trying to help your child. And it is important to take a step back, pause, and give yourself time. There is nothing that can happen in 6 months. You have to give your child a few years to recover his neurological system. Other systems that are affected, you mentioned going into facilities for these Band-Aid treatments out there, right? I can't tell you, when I took Brian for speech therapy, for what is that called? Social skills therapy, etc. Some of them were in the basement, obviously moldy, environmental contamination. I was taking him to special classes, right, for tutoring. And they had this really new paint smell, new carpet smell. It's just mind-boggling. It's just, there's so many things that you have to be careful when you are trying to help your child. That is why root cause, elimination of root causes is so important before you try to, go at the higher level. Oh, I got to do the right and left brain. No, you don't. You have to work at the root causes first.
Important is the diet for our children, because I hear many parents saying, well, I've been on this diet but I haven't seen any difference, so I just decided that it's more important for him to eat a bit of everything rather than being a picky eater. So what is your opinion? on that? Like, is it better to keep him on a healthier diet, or is it better to be off the picky eating sort of label? It's confusing as a parent. You don't really know what's best.
Yes, I hear you. Okay. When you try a diet, once again, don't expect a magic pill. Some children make visible gains, being gluten-free, dairy-free, no processed food, eating simple homemade meals, right? Reading the labels. Reading the labels is very important. Organic, as much as possible, is very important. No, nothing processed. If it doesn't come from nature, don't eat it. Like eating grapes is very different from drinking grape juice. Eating an orange is day and night different from drinking fresh squeezed orange juice. Even if it is fresh squeezed 2 minutes ago, it is nothing but carbs and sugar. If you eat an orange, the pulp, the membranes contain what? They contain fiber. And that fiber, Mother Nature has put in there so it balances out the natural sugars in the fruit. So your insulin spikes are not crazy. You don't get hyperactivity, you don't get inflammation. That is the difference, right? So if nature doesn't make it, don't eat it. Don't give it to your child. Okay, nothing processed, simple, home cooked, gluten-free, dairy-free. Number one, it's guaranteed that the diet will reduce inflammation. Absolutely, you do before and after labs, it will reduce inflammation, right? However, if the root cause of inflammation is still living and thriving, the inflammation is still growing beyond the capability of the reduction. Say, for example, you are getting 100 units of inflammation in the child every day. You go on the diet in the beginning will reduce 50 units of inflammation, right? You haven't seen your child with 50 units of inflammation reduced, 50% reduced inflammation. Of course, you'll see benefit. Oh, wow, there is some benefit here. So that motivates you to go on. And then your child keeps getting 100 units of inflammation every single day because you haven't investigated the root causes, you haven't mitigated your environment. Then those 50 units that are being handled by the diet, they don't seem much any longer. And that's when you're like, oh, diet is not working. Okay, I don't blame the parents. That seems logical, right? We tried. It's really, really hard. All the other kids are eating whatever. His cousins are eating whatever. Everyone calls me crazy. I'm working so hard. I already have enough guilt and stress and whatnot. That's what it is. You have not investigated properly. But the diet is a good start. Now, what is the best known and most dangerous lectin in the world? Gluten.
Okay.
Even organic gluten. So it is the one thing you can do to help your child, even if you don't know any better, anything more, is to get started on the diet and start reducing inflammation. Same thing. Many people ask me, I can't afford to move to a new house. I'm doing my best to clean and remediate my moldy house. What's the point of treatment? I'm here. Same thing. It's important to start the treatment so you can remove the old toxins and effects of the old toxins that have already collected in the body. I understand more toxins will be coming in, but at least things are not getting worse where you end up with major issues like ulcerative colitis and paralysis and cancer and and leukemias, and it's quite common that when there's chronic inflammation, you don't see these. You do see these other diagnoses come into play.
And I also wanted us to talk a little bit about how to create a cleaner environment in our houses. But I remember you dedicated a full podcast on that. So maybe, if I may suggest, that we link it to this one and we let parents actually get full advice.
Yes, that is fine. That makes sense. Now, for those watching again, the YouTube podcast handle is BioNexus Health USA. So if you go on the YouTube search bar and you search for BioNexus environment or environmental toxins, that podcast will come up, and any related podcast will come up as well. And we'll also, link to it here as well. I should remind my IT person. I have a new IT person to make sure to link the appropriate podcasts here.
And I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Dashore, for taking your time to enlighten us, to empower us, because I really, really hope that parents who actually watch this 3 parts now podcast,
Yes.
this is how they're gonna feel, going from hopeless to actually empowered. That was a bit my goal and my hope for them when you agreed to do this podcast, because it's very important to stay strong in this journey, to understand you are not alone, and to understand that there are resources out there. It's just a matter of time before you find them. And for instance, it took me quite a few years before I was able to find you. So I hope that with this podcast, maybe many parents are gonna, reduce that those 6 years that it took me to find you, maybe to much less, maybe to 6 months or 1 year. And this is time gained when their children are gonna be, thriving, where they're not gonna have to suffer like my son had to suffer for those extra years before I actually met you.
All right. So we have a fantastic 3-series podcast. One last thing is, again, for the environment, right? Or if you're moving and whatnot, BioNexus Health, YouTube search bar, search for BioNexus Health, apartment hunting. That is one podcast that talks about what to look for in the new house, not just an apartment, but in the new house that you're planning. Most people move from one flat to another, or if it's a full house, same principles will apply. Then BioNexus Health deep cleaning. I think that's what Andrea mentioned. So deep cleaning
Yes.
podcast is there. Additionally, air conditioning maintenance. So air
And washing
conditioner
machine maintenance as well.
washing machine maintenance, yes.
Yeah,
Washing
very
machine
important as
podcast.
well. Yeah.
Yes. So these are household important things for mothers that you can do right away, even before you see me.
Exactly.
Okay, so gosh, that was a marathon session of 3 different parts. So be sure to watch part 1, 2, and 3. And I will see you guys at the next episode of Autism Uprooted. Take good care. Namaste.
Thank you for joining Master Herbalist Dr. Jodi A. Dashore, Director of the BioNexus Health Clinic and BioNexus Herbals, on the BioNexus Health Podcast, where we explore and share information and stories about recovering and healing from chronic and environmental illnesses such as mold biotoxin illness, Lyme disease, autism spectrum disorder, fatigue, Crohn's and colitis, mast cell activation syndrome, PANS, and more. Please help us grow our message by subscribing to our podcast channel and sharing the podcast on your social networks. For more information, visit bionexushealth.com.